Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing well. The wet weather has certainly continued and it looks like the colder temperatures are settling in too. So please make sure that you're all staying warm, keeping dry and taking that little bit of extra care as you're out and about. That little extra caution goes a long way this time of year. On a brighter note, we have some lovely seasonal moments just around the corner. We have Pancake Day and Valentine's Day that are nearly here, so there'll be plenty of sweet treats and themed activities to enjoy. Whether it's flipping pancakes, sharing a treat with someone special, or simply taking part in the fun, we hope these small celebrations bring that little bit of extra warmth and cheer despite the chilly weather. We're also excited to share that we are launching our stripped back version of our newsletter this quarter. We're focusing on refreshing and refining it to raise the overall quality throughout the year. We genuinely love your input. Your feedback will really help us to shape something that truly works for everyone. As always, thank you for being a part of our community. Stay safe, stay warm, and enjoy the celebrations ahead. Hope to see you all soon. Take care.
Here's this week's charity news for the 13th of February 2026. There is no swimming at Medina on Monday due to school holidays, and it will resume on February 23rd.
Coffee and Chat is on Wednesday starting at 10 o'clock until 11:30. The cost is £2 to include drinks and cake. Staff are on hand to help with any queries and to demonstrate equipment.
Our first Ion Social of the year is on Wednesday at 2 p.m. We will be joined by Hannah from Newport Minster, who will talk about the history, architecture and recent refurb works of the Minster. The cost is £3 to include coffee and cake. This is open to everyone, so please come along with family, friends or neighbours.
Mix and Mingle is on Thursday at Millbrook House. We have a waiting list, so if you would like to join it, please call the office.
Our next stride is on Friday the 27th. The walk will be around 6 miles and start at Arroton. If you would like to join, please call the office and further details will be given.
We have been invited to a taster session of short mat bowls. This would be on a Tuesday morning and transport can be provided from either Millbrook House or Newport Bus Station. If you would like to have a go, please call the office as places are limited.
The fundraising committee are appealing for any items suitable for raffles, tombolas, etc. that can be used throughout the year. If you are able to drop off at Millbrook or if you are unable to come in, please call the office and we can arrange collection. We are also still collecting Christmas items for our summer event. Yes, that is correct, Christmas in the summer. So if you or your family have any items, please do not hesitate to contact the office.
Our Easter knitting campaign is now ready and the patterns are available. So if you are able to knit or crochet and have a friend, neighbour or family member who can help us to raise valuable funds, please call and speak to Susan, who can either send out a pattern or email them to you. Our plan is for the Easter novelties to go on sale from the 1st of March.
Hello, this is Steve reading a story from the Island Echo with the headline, Quigley raises Isle of Wight ferry emissions tax during Prime Minister's questions. Richard Quigley MP used his question at Prime Minister's questions on Wednesday to raise growing local concerns about the impact of the emissions trading scheme, that's the ETS, on Isle of Wight ferry services. The Isle of Wight West MP warned that without an exemption, ferry fares could rise further, placing increased pressure on island residents, businesses and visitors. Richard's intervention follows months of engagement with ferry operators and ministers, including discussions dating back to October 2025. He has held 2 meetings with the Minister for Industry, who has welcomed continued collaboration with both Isle of Wight MPs and acknowledged the serious implications the ETS could have for the island's connectivity and economy. Last week, Richard published a letter to the Minister stating clearly that the Isle of Wight cannot afford the costs of the ETS being applied to our ferry services. During Prime Minister's questions, Richard described the Isle of Wight as a fantastic place to live, work and learn, but reiterated long-standing concerns about cross-zone transport, including reliability, frequency and cost. He noted that these issues have been the subject of previous discussions with the Prime Minister. Addressing the Prime Minister directly, Richard said, "With the emissions trading scheme, which ironically only applies to a hybrid vessel, now set to increase fares further despite exemptions granted for Scottish services, and the island lacking the grid capacity to fully decarbonise, I'm deeply concerned about the impact on our island community. Will the Prime Minister urgently ask DESNZ ministers to review this issue to ensure that the Isle of Wight does not face enforced increases to fares?" In response, Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer said, "I know how important affordable ferries are for his constituents' everyday lives. The ETS scheme will make journeys cleaner, and we are working with ferry companies on the grid connections in ports to enable greener vessels, and I'll make sure he gets a meeting with the relevant minister."
Hello, this is an article from the Island Echo read by Sue. Fire Chief warns of impossible cuts as 2.2 million gap forces tax rise. Hampshire and the Isle of Wight Fire and Rescue Service has agreed a council tax rise amid warnings of an impossible funding squeeze and mounting operational pressures. The service will increase the fire precept by £5 for a Band D property in 2026-2027 after its authority signed off what has been described as a challenging budget. Members of the Hampshire and Isle of Wight Fire and Rescue Authority approved the increase on the 10th of February, as rising costs, growing demand and shrinking national funding continued to bite. Even with a tax increase, a 2.2 million funding gap remains forecast for 2026-2027. To plug the shortfall, temporary measures will be used, including reducing funds earmarked for capital projects and drawing from risk mitigation reserves. However, leaders have warned these are short-term fixes only. Over the next 3 years, the service's allocation from central government is expected to fall by 2.9 million in real terms. At the same time, operational demand is rising sharply. Nationally, fire services in England responding to 20% more incidents last year compared to 2014. Despite firefighter numbers falling by 25% since 2008, the equivalent of around 11,000 hold-home posts. Closer to home, incidents attended by the local services have increased by 29% between 2015-16 and 2024-25, while firefighter numbers have reduced by 333 since 2002. Sabrina Cohen-Hatton, Chief Fire Officer, has said, "Despite delivering more than 3 million in efficiencies, around 30% of the annual budget, we are still forecasting a budget gap for the future. We can temporarily balance the 2026-2027 budget using one of off measures, but these are not long-term solutions. Fair funding from central government must be delivered going forwards. We know it is a difficult economic climate and that this is presenting challenges for our communities, partners and for government, with many competing demands to balance. But a 2.9 million reduction in real-term funding is impossible for us to absorb. We have unique challenges, such as providing services to a remote island. The funding formula must be revised to consider this and other factors involved in serving a large and varied area. I believe the formula should be completely updated and, until it is, a promise should be made to ensure no fire services see a reduction in funding. Ultimately, fire and rescue funding needs to come from sustainable central sources, not be reliant on local taxes." Chairman of the Fire Authority, Reardon Vaughan, added, Our Chief Fire Officer is working with the National Fire Chiefs Council to ensure that the challenges fire services are facing are recognised by government. We need to keep the pressure up and present a strong case for increased funding for Hampshire and the Isle of Wight. We have already called upon our local MPs to add their voices, and representation has been made to the Fire Minister. Fire leaders say they will continue lobbying ministers in a bid to secure what they describe as a fairer, more sustainable funding settlement for the years ahead.
Council leader Phil Jordan warns of future tax rises, asset sales and borrowing. From the Island Echo, read by Lee. Council leader Phil Jordan has claimed the Isle of Wight is at the end of the financial road and cannot set a balanced budget without government support. The Minister of State for Local Government and Homelessness, Alison McGovern, has written to council leaders outlining the 26-27 to 28-29 multi-year local government finance settlement and the introduction of a new local outcomes framework. According to the letter, the government is consolidating funding streams, updating outdated data, and aligning funding more closely with need and deprivation. An additional £740 million in new grant funding nationally will be added for the 26-27, bringing total new settlement funding for 26-29 to more than £4 billion. Councils with historic dedicated schools, grant, DSG, or high needs deficits will receive grants covering 90% of deficits accrued up to 25-26. Further support for post-26 deficits would be proportionate but not unlimited. 7 councils will be permitted to raise council tax above referendum limits, although not beyond average bill levels. The Isle of Wight Council is already above the national average for council tax. Technical changes will also adjust business rates, pooling income, while a one-off adjustment support grant will protect councils whose core spending power would otherwise fall in 26-27. Wider reforms are planned, including profit caps for children's social care placements, a financially sustainable SEND system, and the creation of an independent adult social care commission. Reporting to the announcement, Councillor Phil Jordan, leader of the Isle of Wight Council, said he had written to the Minister to warn the authority is in a worsening financial position. Councillor Jordan said, "I have written today to the Minister explaining that the Isle of Wight Council is materially worse off because of the fair funding review and 3-year settlement. Our financial predicament means setting a budget is unachievable without government support, and we have therefore applied for Exceptional Financial Support, or EFS, last week. As part of the EFS, government expects us to raise council tax by the maximum 5%, sell off any remaining assets, liquidate just about all reserves, and create a transformation plan through an improvement board. In addition, they expect us to raise service charges across the council. When that is done using EFS, they will allow the council to borrow money to fund any financial gaps. That is absolute madness. Borrowing to pay for budget shortfalls and debt is utterly unsustainable and simply won't work. Contrary to what some believe, the council has managed its finances very prudently. We have significantly reduced any new borrowings to almost zero and substantially reduced the loan burden over the past 5 years. We have reorganised and restructured. We have only spent where it was necessary or could not be avoided. We are an island, and as an island, we pay more to deliver the same services as our comparative neighbouring councils. around £24 million more a year. We have evidenced this to the government for many years. Instead of recognising this and funding us correctly, the opposite has happened. Government have cut our funding since 2010 to the extent that we now have roughly £100 million a year less than we had in 2010. Like all budgets, it cannot continue forever, having less income and more expenditure because of costs, inflation and demand for services. We are at the end of the financial road and with nowhere to turn, need government to intervene and act without further delay.
Hi, this is Steve reading a story from Isle of Wight Radio with the headline, Historic Sandown Town Hall reopens as new youth hub after major restoration. A once derelict 156-year-old listed building in Sandown is set to serve hundreds of young people every week as an Isle of Wight Council-led restoration work nears completion. Sandown Town Hall, built in 1869, has undergone an extensive transformation and has already begun hosting drop-in cricket, boxing and art sessions in recent weeks. The historic building has been structurally and cosmetically restored to become a dedicated hub for young people, forming the base of a new and ambitious youth programme in the Bay Area. Part of the hall is now home to Link, a new youth centre run by the Bay Youth Project, supporting young people aged between 10 and 18. In 2023, the Isle of Wight Council secured a £3.1 million from the UK Government's Youth Investment Fund to support the restoration of the building and the delivery of the youth programme. Led by Community Action Isle of Wight, the programme has been welcoming young people since January the 5th and is now capable of supporting more than 200 young people each week. Activities at Sandown Town Hall include a wide range of sports, study sessions and creative opportunities, with a sound studio also available for music practice. Major structural and cosmetic repairs were overseen by the Isle of Wight Council in partnership with ERMC, with island-based firm MCM Construction delivering the works. Young people, alongside representatives from Community Action Isle of Wight and the Bay Youth Forum, were consulted throughout the project, helping shape how the space is used and finished. The restoration included extensive repairs to the historic ceiling, replacement of the damaged roof, and repairs to supporting structures to preserve the building's heritage. Reconfiguration work has also been carried out to create a new reception area and toilet facilities at the front of the building, alongside new electrics and plumbing throughout. A modern renovation of the lower ground floor area has created a youth hub, additional usable spaces, a lobby for a new lift and a dedicated sensory area. Laura Cansdale, the Regeneration Programme Manager for the Isle of Wight Council, said the project would have a lasting impact on young people in the Bay. She said, Sandown Town Hall has been transformed into a bespoke youth and community centre that will empower young people who are the future of the Bay Area. This project has given young people a space to thrive and is another shining example of the power of place-based regeneration as we work towards a resilient and connected Bay Area. Councillor Julie Jones-Evans, Chair of the Economy, Regeneration, Transport and Infrastructure Committee, said the renovation marked a proud moment for the community. She said, not only has an important listed building been saved, but it is now being used for young people to come together and enjoy sport, music and creativity. The historic fabric of the building has been celebrated and a new civic purpose found. It really is something to celebrate. Emma Moole, Link Manager at the Bay Youth Project, said the opening of the new youth centre would allow the organisation to expand its offer. She said, having this fantastic facility allows us to broaden our offer to young people in the Bay Area, with free activities including boxing, cricket, arts and music. We also run regular drop-in sessions where young people can access a safe and welcoming environment to socialise, connect with youth workers, use free Wi-Fi or enjoy games with others. Our timetable is constantly evolving in consultation with young people, ensuring we deliver the activities and support they want. More information about the Bay Youth project, including activity timetables and how to register, is available via its Facebook and Instagram pages.
Hello, this is an article from the Isle of Wight Radio, read by Sue. Air ambulance rated outstanding by Care Quality Commission. Hampshire and the Isle of Wight Air Ambulance has been rated outstanding by the Care Quality Commission following its first ever inspection. The service, which is run by University Hospital Southampton NHS Foundation Trust, provides emergency air ambulance and critical care response across Hampshire and the Isle of Wight, and also supports other air ambulance teams across the south. Inspectors visited the service in October as part of the CQC's ongoing checks on the safety and quality of the healthcare services. Following the inspection, the air ambulance was rated outstanding overall, as well as in every individual category, including safety, effectiveness, responsiveness, caring and leadership. The CQC says patients were receiving high-quality, person-centred care, with safety described as a clear priority for everyone involved. Inspectors found the service was well staffed, with highly trained and experienced teams who were able to respond quickly to emergencies and manage risks without delay. Families told inspectors that staff actions had helped save lives, while others described the care provided as gold standard. People and their relatives were overwhelmingly positive about their experiences, with staff praised for their kindness, reassurance and respect during highly distressing situations. The report also highlights a strong culture of learning and improvement, with every incident reviewed so good practice could be shared and any issues addressed. One example saw paramedics training to carry out advanced procedures previously limited to doctors, allowing more patients to receive critical care sooner. Inspectors also noted strong working relationships with NHS ambulance services, effective handovers and an open-door leadership approach that encouraged staff to raise concerns. The Care Quality Commission says everyone involved in the Hampshire and Isle of Wight Air Ambulance should be proud of the findings. The full inspection report will be published on the CQC website in coming days.
Southern Vectis introduces shuttle bus for passengers in Brading, from the Isle of Wight Radio, read by Lee. Southern Vectis, in partnership with the Isle of Wight Council, is introducing a shuttle bus to transport passengers during the New Road Brading closure. The shuttle will operate between Brading Boring and Tesco's. At Tesco's, passengers can change to route number 2 or 3 for their onward journeys. We understand our customers rely on the services we provide, and this has been a challenging situation, said Simon Moy, Southern Vectis Operations Manager. I'd like to thank them for their patience and understanding during these works by Island Roads. Our team is determined to minimise disruption to our services, and I am delighted that we've been able to work with the Isle of Wight Council to provide the shuttle bus for the remainder of the works. Stuart Chandler, the Council's Transport Strategy Manager, added, ensuring residents can continue to travel reliably during these essential works has been a priority for us. We're pleased to have worked closely with Southern Vectis to introduce this shuttle service, which will maintain important connections for the Brading community. Timetable information for the Brading shuttle bus can be found on Southern Vectis website, which is islandbuses.info.
This is Good Morning from your reader Tony
and Lynn. The BBC In Touch programme follows, and the scaffolding news follows that.
Clampdown on road shortcuts continues. Drivers looking to bypass disruptive roadworks have been dealt a blow after a number of shortcuts were closed in an Island Roads clampdown. Firestone Copse Road, a popular route between Wootton and Haven Street, is the latest cut-through to have been shut after drivers failed to heed warnings not to use it as a diversion route. Island Road said it is not suitable for the volume of traffic it is currently seeing. It is the fourth shortcut to have been closed in recent months. In November last year, Rue Lane Wroxall was shut while works took place in the village. Then, access to Betty Haunt Lane Newport was severed during the Horsebridge Hill closure. The other recent closure has come at the Mall, Brading, which has been shut during new road works. An Island Roads spokesperson said, while it is expected that drivers may use local knowledge to find shorter routes, issues arise when increased traffic uses roads that are too narrow or have limited visibility. In such cases, these routes can quickly become unsafe or congested. This has occurred on the Mall at Brading with the new road works, Firestone Road during the Eleanor's Grove diversion, and on Betty Haunt Lane during the Horsebridge Hill closure. These roads have been closed because they are not suitable for the volume of traffic they were receiving. At Firestone, motorists have been using the road as an alternative to Eleanor's Grove, which has been turned one way for major works, severing across towards Ryde from Wharton. To bypass the system, drivers have been turning right at Firestone Copse Road, cutting through to Haven Street and then continuing on to Ryde. This is despite Southern Water saying beforehand the road is narrow and unsuitable for heavy traffic or large vehicles. The spokesman added, "Our priority is to maintain a safe road network. Official diversions are put in place to provide an alternative route for all vehicles during the road schemes. We will, of course, keep the situation under review and thank road users for their understanding during this busy time on the network."
A man appears in court charged with murder. A 31-year-old man has appeared in court charged with the murder of 18-month-old Jayla Jean. Adrian Lawton, formerly of Dairy Crest Drive, Newport, spoke only to confirm his name and date of birth during the short hearing at Southampton Magistrates Court on Wednesday. He is charged with murder and a second charge of causing or allowing the death of Jayla Jean McLaren. The defendant, who said he was of no fixed address, was remanded in custody and had been due to appear at Portsmouth Crown Court on Thursday. Magistrate Helen Douglas told him, "You have heard the very serious charges, so there is no bail for you. You are going to be in custody, appearing at Portsmouth Crown Court tomorrow for a preliminary hearing." Samara Glover, also of Newport, previously appeared at Portsmouth Crown Court to face charges of murdering Jayla Jean and causing or allowing the death of a child. She was remanded into custody ahead of a hearing on March the 23rd, and a provisional trial date was set for June the 29th. Jayla Jean died in hospital on August the 3rd, 2025, after being taken there with serious injuries on August the 1st. In a statement previously issued to the county press, Jayla Jean's family said, "Mummy, Daddy and Nanny will always love you. Fly high, Princess."
Cargo ship blaze triggers an emergency response. A fire broke out in the engine room of a cargo ship off the island on Monday evening, prompting a major emergency response. The stricken vessel is the Caesarea Trader, which operates the Jersey to Portsmouth route, and was heading to Portsmouth when the blaze started. The fire started while the ship was off Shanklin, which could reportedly be seen from as far away as the Sussex coast. The incident, initially reported at 3:45 p.m, drew a swift emergency response, with a search and rescue helicopter and Bembridge lifeboat attending, as well as tugboats from Portsmouth. The operation became more hazardous into the evening amid foul weather. the deteriorating visibility and choppy seas. An HM Coast Guard spokesperson said it was an engine room fire. There were 24 people on board, but no one was injured. The Caesarea Trader, a ro-ro cargo vessel sailing under the UK flag, is 126.4 metres long. The ship was previously named Commodore Goodwill and bought by DFDS last year.
Chalets just inches from disaster as cliff collapses. Another cliff fall has left a row of chalets perilously close to the edge near Fort Albert. The latest collapse is at the eastern end of Brambles Chine, between Colwell Bay and Fort Victoria. Very heavy rainfall is believed to have contributed to the latest erosion. Aerial photographs taken by the County Press Camera Club member Steve Mew show large sections of the cliff face missing, with debris scattered below and parts of the land behind the chalets visibly undermined. In place, the ground now drops away sharply, just metres from the buildings at Cliff End. Locals say the last remaining section of the historic Cliff End battery gun emplacement is still standing, but now finds itself right at the end of the access road following the fall. One resident described the situation as very worrying. "I've never known anything like this in 16 years at Cliff End. We're now really concerned about the erosion." Another nearby resident said they had been watching it all slowly disappear since moving to the area in 1987, adding that there were once steps leading down from the cliff to the beach below. This is not the first time the area has been affected by significant landslides.
Coastal footpath closed following new landslip. Another popular stretch of coastal footpath has been closed due to a landslip. A section of the route linking Cliff Road to Head and Warren has been closed after additional ground movement near the Totland coastline. Clear signage has been installed at either end of the affected stretch, warning of danger in the landslip area. However, residents have raised concerns about the arrangements around the closed section itself. Despite clear warnings, the wooden gates at both access points remain unlocked. This means that while the closure is clearly signposted, it relies on walkers observing and complying with the closure notices. Photographs taken from Head and Warren approach show the path narrowing as it nears the affected section, with a substantial collapse further along. Exposed earth and a steep drop mark the point where the footpath has fallen away. The landslip has occurred just behind Cliff Road, approximately 35 metres from the nearest home. An inland diversion is already in place, with walkers advised to follow footpath T17, located a little further up Cliff Road, which guides people safely around the outside of a nearby property before rejoining the network of paths across Head and Warren. Councillor Chris Jarman, who represents Totland and Colwell Ward, said he is well aware of the condition of the footpath and the challenges facing the area. Intensifying winter rain, coupled with substantial local house building, which forces more surface water over the cliff, has all amplified and exacerbated the situation, he said. He added that the closure had not come as a surprise. "I lead our walking group in a different route each Monday and included the new closed path just prior to the additional collapse and closure. Part of the path was already bordering up with orange netting following an earlier collapse, and it was clear that with the erosion continuing, it would not remain open for long." He said the issue is not isolated, pointing to other closures along the coastline. The iconic and stunningly beautiful southern coastal path from Compton Bay to Freshwater Bay was closed following additional collapses close to the highway, which put the path and therefore safety in jeopardy. He believes rerouting paths further inland is the only long-term solution. Despite the closure, Councillor Jarman said Heddon Warren continues to offer a wealth of walking opportunities. Heddon Warren is crisscrossed by a myriad of footpaths and many beautiful vistas overlooking the Solent, Needles, Tennyson Down, and looking back upwards towards Freshwater Bay. He said, "Although it seems we may have lost this one path, I'm confident locals and our many visitors will continue to enjoy walking over Heddon Warren during the King Charles III England Coastal Path."
A bald eagle finds her forever home. A bald eagle has found a new permanent home on the island. The 11-year-old bird, named Kailani, is settling in at the falconry experience based at Robin Hill. Kailani means sea and sky, a name chosen to reflect her new life on the island. She was bred in Wales and spent 5 years at a centre in Oxford before being moved due to a growing aggression towards handlers. For safety reasons, she was withdrawn from public flying displays and placed in an aviary where she remained unflown for around 5 years. Kailani was later transferred to another centre, but her feather condition had already deteriorated and she became unsettled during transport. After brief stints at other centres, she showed renewed promise during private flights in Scotland, but a pattern of aggression towards handlers re-emerged. Once more removed from flying, she was returned to an aviary housing until a permanent home could be found. The falconry experience team is focusing on Kailani's well-being and recovery without rushing her progress. Her training has been reset to foundational principles with no fixed timelines. The centre said the priority is to provide a calm, structured and predictable environment where trust can be rebuilt at her own pace. Visitors will be able to meet Kailani during the upcoming half-term as part of the centre's displays at Robin Hill. Guests will have the opportunity to see her up close, hear her story and follow her progress. The team hopes that once she is ready, Kailani will eventually take to the skies above Robin Hill and possibly even participate in cliff and coastal flights. The falconry experience said she now has a permanent and caring home, focused entirely on her long-term well-being. They said Kailani is more than just a new addition. She is now part of the family and here to stay, quirks and all.
Shuttle bus for residents who are trapped. Residents trapped by ongoing roadworks in Brading can breathe a sigh of relief after Southern Vectis agreed to run a shuttle bus following backlash. In partnership with the Isle of Wight Council, the service takes passengers between the village and Ryde during the new road closure. It comes after residents last week slammed the decision to close the main road and not provide extra bus provision, as reported by the county press. Sharon McNamara, a resident who has mobility issues, said she felt trapped in her home. She said the nearest bus stop to Brading was now the temporary stop at Morton Old Road, 0.6 miles away from Brading Bullring. North of the town, the nearest place to get the bus was 0.9 miles away at Robert Corner. Sharon said, "I can't walk to Sandown. I'm literally trapped in my home. I do our weekly shop as I am a carer for my mum who is 87. I don't know how I'm going to do my shopping." MP Joe Robertson for Isle of Wight East also voiced his concerns. Following the backlash, the bus firm has now agreed to operate a shuttle service between Brading Bullring and Tesco. At Tesco, passengers can change to Route 2 or 3 for their onward journeys. We understand our customers rely on the services we provide, and this has been a challenging situation, said Simon Moy, Southern Vectis Operations Manager. I'd like to thank them for their patience and understanding during these works by Island Roads. Our team is determined to minimise disruption to our services, and I am delighted that we've been able to work with the Isle of Wight Council to provide the shuttle bus for the remainder of the works. Stuart Chandler, the Council's Transport Strategy Manager, added, ensuring residents can continue to travel reliably during these essential works has been a priority for us. We're pleased to have worked closely with Southern Vectis to introduce this shuttle service, which will help maintain important connections for the Brading community. Timetable information for the shuttle bus can be found at the website islandbuses, or one word, .info.
Inspirational Isle of Wight Dame to receive BAFTA Fellowship. The island's Dame Donna Langley, the first British woman to run a major Hollywood studio, is to receive the 2026 BAFTA Fellowship Award for her contribution to film and television. Dame Donna, who is NBC Universal's Chair of Entertainment, will receive the gong at the BAFTA Film Awards on February the 22nd for her outstanding and exceptional contribution. She said it is an incredible honour to be chosen as this year's recipient of the BAFTA Fellowship. As a Brit, to be recognised by my home country, by my peers and fellow colleagues in the industry is an absolute privilege. I wouldn't be receiving this award without the indelible vision of the creative partners who have defined my career. BAFTA remains the gold standard of excellence in the UK for film and television, and I take great pride in working with so many local artists who are shaping the future of this business. I feel lucky every day to be part of this community. Dame Donna will receive the award for her transformative leadership in the face of rapid change and disruption, along with her sustained commitment to inclusion and pipeline building, and the strength of her relationships with creative partners who bring film and television to life. BAFTA describes her as one of the most influential and respected figures in the entertainment industry. Dame Donna, who attended Lake Middle School and Carisbrooke High School, originally arrived in Los Angeles with no credentials or connections and rose to become a major Hollywood movie executive. She oversees creative strategy, business operations, production, acquisitions, marketing and distribution across all NBC Universal entertainment programming. BAFTA chairwoman Sarah Putt said, "The first British woman to lead a major Hollywood studio, Dame Donna Langley's cultural impact has been exceptional. Dame Donna has been credited with championing films including Straight Outta Compton, Bridesmaids, Get Out, The Holdovers, and BAFTA Best Film winner Oppenheimer. She has also steered franchises such as Wicked, Fast and Furious, Jurassic World, Bridget Jones, Mamma Mia and Despicable Me. In 2020, Dame Donna was made a Dame by the late Queen. The 2026 BAFTA Film Awards will be shown on BBC One and BBC iPlayer on Sunday, February the 22nd.
Firefighters respond after car catches fire. Firefighters attended the car park of Morrison's supermarket in Lake after a car caught fire on Sunday morning. The crews attended just after 11:30 to reports of a car on fire after an off-duty officer stepped in with some dry powder. Bystanders managed to extinguish the flames before emergency teams arrived. A Hampshire and Isle of Wight Fire and Rescue Service spokesperson said A crew from Shanklin was called to attend a vehicle fire. The fire was put out by an off-duty fire officer using a dry powder extinguisher prior to the crew's arrival. The crew isolated the battery and carried out a full thermal investigation on the engine bay.
A road closure after bus crash into hedge at junction. A double-decker bus became stuck after colliding with a hedge while attempting a difficult turn. The incident happened in Winford at the junction of Forest Road and Alveston Road on Wednesday. A social media user said it wasn't a proper crash. The bus struggled trying to get round the hairpin for about half an hour before trying to turn around, which is where it got stuck. Everyone was absolutely fine. The incident blocked the road, prompting Island Roads to direct traffic through Forest Road from its junction with Winford Road and shut Alveston Road. Southern Vectis confirmed its Route 8 service was diverted via Watery Lane and Branston Cross in both directions. Island Roads posted on X, emergency road closure, roundabout Alveston Road to junction of Forest Road and Forest Road to Winford, due to Southern Vectis bus incident. The road will be open as soon as the bus has been recovered. Attempts to move the bus were initially unsuccessful, but recovery teams eventually cleared the vehicle and the debris. The roads were reopened later in the evening following the recovery operation.
A new heritage orchard takes root on the island. A heritage orchard has taken root on the island. The Isle of Wight Steam Railway created the orchard in its overflow car park as part of its work to improve biodiversity and green space in partnership with Wight Nature Fund and Haven Street and Ashy Parish Council. Funding was secured through the Tree Council's Branching Out Fund, which supports the planting of trees, hedgerows and orchards during the winter season. A community planning event took place on February the 7th with support from local and railway volunteers and attended by Councillor Tony Barry. Steve Cowley, chairman of Wight Nature Fund, said, "Our thanks go to the Tree Council for funding, everyone who helped in the creation of the orchard, and volunteers for their hard work." Councillor Tony Barry, chairman of Haven Street and Ashy Parish Council, attended the planting day and also serves as a trustee of the Isle of Wight Steam Railway. He welcomed the project as an environmental improvement that supports both biodiversity and the preservation of heritage fruit varieties. The planting included two notable Isle of Wight apple types, the Howgate Wonder, raised in Bembridge in 1915 and known for producing the UK's heaviest apples, and the Stain Seedling, a sweet and aromatic variety first grown in 1893. Trees are expected to blossom each spring, attracting pollinators and transforming the site visually, although fruit is not expected to appear for 4 to 5 years. Geraldine Creven, grants officer at the Tree Council, said, "Branching Out presents a fantastic opportunity for schools and community groups, large and small, to get their spades in the ground and start establishing life-enhancing and biodiversity-boosting trees, hedgerows and orchards in their neighbourhoods." We're so thrilled for all our successful applicants, especially the Isle of Wight Steam Railway. Despite wet weather on the planting day, volunteers expressed enthusiasm for the orchard's future, looking forward to the day when trees will provide summer shade. The Tree Council's Branching Out Fund offers grants of £250 to £2,500 to support community planting projects across the UK.
A vital new children's home given approval. A vital new children's home has been approved for a 4-bedroom house on the outskirts of Newport in response to an urgent local need. Milford Dell Support Agency has been given permission for a change of use of a residential property in East Newport, which would allow provision of care and accommodation for children or young people under 18. As of March 2023, 38.6% of the 295 children under the care of the Isle of Wight Council were living off the island, according to its placements and commissioning manager. The Isle of Wight Council's decision report said, "With any residential use, there is the potential for some noise and disturbance. However, given the size of the property and the scale of the use indicated, it has considered the proposed use would be unlikely to harm neighbouring amenity, which would be more likely to be maintained to a good level. Whilst there is likely to be some comings and goings associated with the proposed use, including staff changing over and visitors, such activity is unlikely to be much greater than that associated with a dwelling house of this size." 3 neighbours objected to the application.
Club appeal as flooding threatens the season. A crisis-hit sports club said it is now on the brink of being unable to fulfill its fixtures and is urgently appealing for financial help and a temporary mainland pitch. The Isle of Wight Hockey Club has warned its home pitch at Smallbrook, the island's only full-sized astroturf suitable for competitive hockey, has become unusable following weeks of heavy rain, rising water levels and repeated deposits of silt and mud. Despite intensive work by Ryde School's ground team, the surface is currently unsafe and out of action. With no alternative hockey pitch on the island, the club is now being forced to move all remaining home fixtures to the mainland, sending already stretched costs spiralling. The situation has become critical. Without additional support, the cost of simply keeping hockey going on the island risks being unsustainable, club official Carl Joyce said. Relocating fixtures to the mainland will double our travel costs for the remainder of the season, placing significant strain on our small, volunteer-run club. Wightlink offers ongoing support for travel. The club is appealing for donations, mainland pitch availability umpires willing to assist, and island sports halls or 2G services that could be host temporary training. The club has set up a GoFundMe page.
Collapse sends tons of rock crashing into the bay. A large section of cliff has collapsed, sending tons of rock plunging into Freshwater Bay. The Isle of Wight Council said it had been made aware of the collapse and would assess any impact on the beach below. Sienna Anderson, who took photos at the scene, said she believes the entrance to one cave has been blocked off. Another County Press reader, known as Green Man Isle of Wight, also took photographs. He said, "I, like many other kids, used to walk out to those caves at low tide many years ago. The one round the corner on the right used to be known as the Moth Cave because people said the ceiling was shaped like one, although it could have been anything in my opinion. The ones to the left that looked like they've been affected by the cliff fall were known as the Snake Cave and the Bear Cave, but I have no idea why. I think it's just stuff other kids made up before us." A council spokesperson added, "We would ask people to remember that cliff falls can occur at any time, so it is advisable to stay away from cliff edges and from walking directly under a cliff line."
Political group forms on the Isle of Wight Council. A new political group called Very Broad Church has been formed on the Isle of Wight Council. Councillor Claire Mosdell, former leader of the Isle of Wight's Conservative councillors, has joined forces with independent socialist Councillor George Brodie. The local Democratic Reporting Service understands the Very Broad Church group has been created for tactical reasons. Councillor Mosdell, who represents Newchurch, Haven Street and Ashy Ward, resigned from the Conservative group in August last year, while Pan and Barton representative Councillor Brodie quit the Alliance group in 2021. Councillor Brodie said, although Councillor Mosdell and I have opposing views on the best economic model for society, on many of the challenges currently facing the Isle of Wight Council, for example, budget, local government reorganisation, we agree. Therefore, for the remaining 3 months of our service as councillors, we have agreed to form a group for tactical reasons. Councillor Mosdell serves on a variety of County Hall panels, including the adult social care, public health and housing needs, appointments and employment, environment and community protection, harbour, planning and policy, finance and resources committee. She has also been contacted for comment.
Vandalism leaves village pitch severely damaged. Mindless vandals on bikes have been blamed for leaving a football pitch unplayable. Numerous bike tracks have been churning up the recreation ground at Central Mead in Godshill, and they were first discovered last Wednesday morning. Further damage was caused that same night. The vandalism caused not only severe damage but also sparked local outrage. More damage was caused to the ground since turning parts of the ground into a quagmire. The ground was left with multiple circular and crisscrossing tyre tracks cut into the saturated grass. The damage was a devastating blow to the volunteers who spend hours maintaining the pitch all year round. Godshill resident Ian Barker posted on the Godshill community page on Facebook, "There are motorcycle tracks cutting deep in the field and including the new grass at the old cricket pitch. A lot of volunteer time has gone into the mead, so this is very disappointing." There was further damage to the surface of the playing field at Central Mead caused by bikes, e-bikes or small motorcycles. The community will have to sort it out. That's time and money to volunteers, and it's all unnecessary. There are loads of places to ride in the local countryside.
Fire station construction is underway. A major boost for emergency cover in East Cowes has moved a step closer, as work officially began on the town's new fire station. A ceremony marked the official start of construction on the new East Cowes Fire Station and Fleet Maintenance Centre, with the build scheduled for completion later this year. The project is being delivered by the Isle of Wight firm MCM Construction, which uses only island-based labour and suppliers. The Isle of Wight Fire and Rescue Service members, senior officers, planners and engineers gathered on site for the spade in the ground moment. The new station has been designed to meet modern operational standards, including improved layouts to help firefighters reduce contamination risks. The wider site will also house a dedicated maintenance facility for island-based vehicles and equipment. Once the build is complete, East Cowes on-call firefighters will return to a purpose-built base in their own community. The crew has been operating from Newport Fire Station since 2024 after leaving the former site ahead of its demolition. The Fire Services Estates team worked with the Isle of Wight Council to ensure trees around the site are protected and that the development does not encroach on neighbouring houses. Matt Robinson, the Fire Services Director of Corporate Services, said the start of construction marked an exciting phase for the project. Our teams have worked incredibly hard alongside our partners to reach this point, he said. Our on-call firefighters will benefit from the modern facilities on offer to keep them safe and ready to make lives safer. This work is just one element of our service-wide estate programme, with more exciting improvements planned across our Hampshire and Isle of Wight fire stations. Raidian Vaughan, chairman of the Fire Authority, said the new station would benefit both East Cowes and the wider island. The rebuild demonstrates our commitment to ensure our teams on the Isle of Wight have access to modern and inclusive facilities, helping to keep them safe, healthy, and best able to respond to our communities in their times of need, he said.
Roadside caravan is now abandoned. A caravan that has caused ongoing disruption on a main road has now been damaged and abandoned, the council has confirmed. Appearing on the roadside at Wight Rails Road between Wootton and Newport just before Christmas, the caravan led to temporary traffic lights being installed. Since then, it has been badly damaged, including windows smashed and litter left lining the road. In a new update, the local authorities said the legal process to remove the caravan is still ongoing, despite it now appearing to be abandoned. A council spokesperson told the county press the legal process to take action against the caravan's owner remains ongoing. The Isle of Wight Council is aware that the caravan in question now appears to be unoccupied, and all required welfare checks on the former occupant have been carried out, with appropriate support offered. The council continues to follow the correct legal process, and if the owner does not engage with this process, the council will proceed with removing the caravan from the highway as soon as legally possible. The county press asked whether the caravan could now be removed as fly tipping, now that it was unoccupied and smashed. In response, the spokesperson explained that an abandoned vehicle is not legally classed as fly-tipped waste, meaning a separate legal process must be followed. Temporary traffic lights remain in place due to the caravan's position next to the road. The council has previously said it made several visits to the caravan while it was occupied, carrying out welfare checks and holding what it described as constructive discussions in an attempt to encourage the occupant to move to a safer, lawful location. Police were also alerted to concerns for welfare shortly after the caravan arrived, though no offences were identified at the time. The council has reiterated that it is progressing with action to remove the caravan and will do so as soon as it is legally possible.
Isle of Wight Council appoints a new strategic director. A civil engineer with decades of experience has been appointed to a senior leadership role at the Isle of Wight Council. Simon Moon has been appointed as the Council's new Strategic Director of Community Services following a competitive recruitment process. He replaces Colin Rowland, who leaves the Council at the end of March after 7 years. Wendy Pereira, Chief Executive of the Isle of Wight Council, said Simon brings an impressive breadth of experience and a genuine passion for public service. His leadership will be invaluable as we continue to strengthen our work across community services, from highways and the environment to leisure and transport. Mr. Moon is a civil engineer with more than 28 years of senior leadership experience in both public and private sectors. His previous roles include senior positions at Portsmouth City Council, Cambridgeshire County Council and Atkins Realis. He said, "What drew me most to this role is the Council's clear commitment to its communities and the pride people take in serving the island. There is already so much strong work underway across community services, and I am passionate about building on that together.
Arrest after Delhi is smashed up. A man has been arrested after a shopfront was vandalised in Sandown last weekend. Police were called to Sandown High Street amid reports that sometime between 9 p.m. and 10 p.m. on Sunday, a man was acting suspiciously and carrying a brick. When officers arrived, they found a hole smashed through the glass front door of the Delicious Bakery and Cafe, with further damage to the shopfront windows. The cafe has remained open despite the vandalism. A 53-year-old man from Sandown was arrested on suspicion of causing criminal damage valued at under £5,000. He has been bailed by the police with conditions until Friday, May the 8th, while inquiries continue. Officers are now appealing for witnesses, including a person believed to have been approached by the man around the time of the incident. Anyone who saw what happened or has CCTV dashcam, mobile or doorbell footage from the area is urged to call 101, quoting crime reference 4426 00 66 827.
Fresh court action filed over consent for 473 homes plan. A resident group is again taking the Isle of Wight Council to court over planning permission for hundreds of homes at West Acre Park in Ryde. Greenfields Isle of Wight Limited has filed legal action over County Hall's consent for a 473 home development from Captiva Homes, claiming it is illegal, with concern over a lack of infrastructure and insufficient funds to complete necessary work. In September 2025, the Council's Planning Committee conditionally approved Captiva Homes' revised project, which includes commercial space, a doctor's surgery and a cafe. Greenfield's latest action comes after a previous court battle which reached the Court of Appeal and resulted in the quashing of the prior planning permission for development at West Acre Park. Councillor Michael Lilly, Liberal Democrat representative for Ryde, Apley and Elmfield, said there have always been major concerns with the lack of road infrastructure. You have a major housing development which would be the largest such development on the whole island in an area of increasing traffic without proper road infrastructure planned or the money to pay for it. The Isle of Wight Council has spent to date fighting the Ryde, Apley and Elmfield residents to the admitted tune of £150,000, excluding officer time, a case they lost, and now plan to spend further taxpayers' money to defend a case due to continued flaws in the process. This is simply unacceptable. Captiva Homes CEO Ian Delaney said, "We respect and empathise with community concerns around sustainability and impact on infrastructure and can only reiterate our commitment to make positive contributions in both areas. Our plans include gifting of land to the National Health Service for a required Ryde Health Hub, a 12-hectare country park, fully funded highways junction upgrades, biodiversity and gain uplift, and improved sustainable transport links. West Acre Park planning approval has now been granted locally on 3 separate occasions and has been reviewed at the High Court and Court of Appeal. The Council's failure to publish the final Section 106 agreement prior to the previous granting of permission has now been addressed. Consent has been lawfully reissued and we remain fully committed to starting work with the minimum delay and to delivering desperately needed homes for islanders. The Isle of Wight Council has been contacted for comment.
The council chair leaves group at County Hall. The chair of the Isle of Wight Council has left County Hall's Alliance Group to sit as a non-aligned independent councillor. Councillor Ian Dorr confirmed the move on Monday, citing his responsibility to run meetings fairly and impartially, and wanting impartiality to be clearly visible, with several significant decisions ahead, including the budget. The Binsted and Fishbourne councillor said his focus is on good governance, delivery for residents, and on chairing proceedings fairly and consistently, and pledged to continue to work constructively with colleagues across the chamber in the Isle of Wight's best interests. However, his statement to the press also said he would not be seeking the chair role again after May. On a positive note, Councillor Dorr praised the tone in the chamber, improving noticeably since the Penn report, a damning 31-page document which described County Hall as dysfunctional. He said, "For clarity, I remain an independent and I will continue to work constructively with all members across the chamber. This is not about stepping back from responsibility. I will continue to support stable, lawful governance and chair proceedings fairly for all members. I'm not joining any other group."
Days gone by. The county press has been bringing the news to Islanders since 1884. We've delved into the archives. 125 years ago, in February 1901, the island was celebrating Marconi's success after he sent a wireless message over 200 miles from St Catherine's to the Lizard, Cornwall. And Island Man wrote a poem in memory of Queen Victoria. The poem, entitled Sunset, began, "A queen of queens has passed away. Night stretched her right hand o'er the day." It ended, "Bear onward to her laurelled rest, the sunset of a life once ours." Ventnor was described as being greatly agitated by the arrest of an intelligent young man who was caught stealing from a china and glass store in the High Street. George Frederick Williams, aged 15, was remanded in custody pending trial in the Petty Court sessions.
100 years ago, in February 1926, following a landslide at St Lawrence, the Isle of Wight was described as the crumbling island in a feature in a national newspaper, the Daily Chronicle. A Spanish steamer bound for Middlesbrough had a narrow escape when bad weather caused it to run aground off the coast of Atherfield, and it escaped any damage.
75 years ago, in February 1951, at the annual meeting of Shanklin Business Association, it was requested that a letter should be sent to the District Council requesting the town's Second World War bomb sites be cleared up. The island featured prominently in the BBC's religious broadcasts when the first of a series of People's Services was broadcast from Ryde Methodist Church, and a youth service at St Thomas's Church, Newport, was broadcast on the Western Home Service.
50 years ago, in February 1976, angry members of Shanklin Business Association protested that the spread of double yellow lines, which they believed would turn Shanklin into a ghost town. The secretary of the Best Kept Village Competitions Organising Committee encouraged island villages to tidy their black spots after Freshwater Parish Council said they would not be entering the competition due to untidiness in some areas of the village. 3 sows and 11 piglets perished when fire destroyed a pigsty at Noak Common, Parkhurst. The farmer, Mr J. Ball, said he estimated the total damage was in the region of £2,000.
Horror plane crash that saw dozens killed. On a cold, dark November evening in 1957, a night flight to Madeira took off from Southampton Airport. On board the Aquila Airways plane were 58 people, including 3 honeymoon couples. 9 minutes into the flight, at 10:54 p.m, the pilot reported he had engine problems and intended to return. That was the last message from the plane. A few minutes later it crashed into a disused chalk pit on the side of Shalcombe Down. 45 passengers and 8 crew, including the 3 honeymoon couples, died as the 2,000 gallons of aviation fuel burst into flames. By a stroke of luck, 36 soldiers from Golden Hill Fort were on a night exercise nearby. Despite being on the scene within minutes, they could only stand by helpless, listening to the screams of the victims trapped in the flames. The disaster made front-page news in the national press, but couldn't match the intimate local reporting of the county press. The newspaper's account makes grim reading. It shows humanity at its best and sadly at its worst. The excellent report needs no commentary and appears here verbatim. Local residents cooperated magnificently with the rescue services, and at least half the survivors owe their lives directly to the selfless courage of 3 officers from the Golden Hill Fort. Time after time they braved the inferno, dragging out dead and injured, until with their own clothing alight they were finally driven back by the terrific heat. Major W.J.F. Weller told the county press that at 10:45 p.m. he was 200 yards up the road from the crash site and heard an aircraft approaching and estimated it was below 100 feet. All the cabin lights were clearly visible. The aircraft landed steeply to the right and then crashed. With his 2 companions, he ran to the wreckage, which was flaming furiously. As they ran towards the plane, they heard cries for help and found 7 persons lying near the wreckage badly burned. Mrs. Brenda Bruce of Chesil Farm said she saw the plane flash by a few feet overhead, with those inside visible in the cabin lights. Then came a loud crash. A local farmer, Mr. H. Kitson, said he heard the plane fly low overhead and then a loud bang. He ran to the scene and found Mr. Bert Tyrrell, a shepherd, already there helping to get people away from the blaze. He helped Mr. Tyrrell carry away living and dead on hurdles. The soldiers gave their greatcoats and tunics to use as padding for the hurdles and coverings for the injured. All who were present were united in their praise of the magnificent work done by the soldiers, chiefly by the 3 officers. From what they were told our reporters, it is obvious that Major Weller's later account is a masterpiece of modesty. All 3 dashed into the blazing debris, dragging out the dead and injured, ignoring the terrific heat. Some of the victims were screaming in agony with their petrol-splashed clothing blazing like torches. Quartermaster Stores Reed said, "If ever a man deserved a medal, it was Lieutenant Sherburn. He was last in the plane, standing there with his shirt blazing and tugging away at a seat containing a woman and child. I rushed to his aid, and he realised we had got the seat and passengers clear, but unfortunately they were dead. From then on, the position was simply helpless. It was obvious that anyone left in the blazing machine was dead. The fire brigade and police were on the scene very promptly, and troops from Golden Hill Fort helped them in their grim task of searching the wreckage. Some of the earliest recovered victims were taken in private cars to St Mary's Hospital, where a complete ward was vacated to make room for the stretcher cases.
During the night, 17 bodies were recovered and taken to Albany Barracks, which was used as an emergency mortuary. The grim task of searching for bodies resumed at dawn, and by midday all 43 had been recovered. The utmost difficulty was experienced in extricating the last few bodies which were buried under the engines, which fell on them as the wreckage disintegrated. The engines had to be dragged clear by teams of men hauling on ropes. As the hours passed, access to the still smouldering pyre became more and more difficult, because the thousands of gallons of water which had been pumped onto the wreckage turned the approach lane into a quagmire. At 4 a.m. the metalwork was still red hot, and it was daylight before it had cooled sufficiently to be handled. Residents of Chesil and Brook expressed disgust at the holiday atmosphere pervading the scene in the afternoon, when thousands of sightseers flocked to the area to view the scattered wreckage. All were turned back. Mrs. Bowyer, wife of the rector, described such behaviour as utterly disgusting. More than 200 cars and motorcycles were parked, and there was a non-stop stream of traffic past the entrance to the pit, where a view could be obtained of the giant tailplane towering above the charred remains of shrubs and trees. Viewing the milling throng, which included children and even babies in arms, one Brook woman commented, "They are simply ghouls. All it needs now is an ice cream stall and a hot dog stand." As dusk fell, adult souvenir hunters were seen approaching the site from the top of the downs on hands and knees. They were all turned back by the police. One of the survivors, Mr. Arthur Mangum, described how they should have taken off at 9:30 p.m, but did not do so until 10:08 p.m. The engines were started but cut out several times. Finally, they took off after more than half an hour. A few moments later, the plane dropped, then climbed again, and then dropped again. It was like being on the Big Dipper. It made me grip the arms of my seat. This went on for about 5 minutes, and an officer came in, looking white and tense, and said, "Things are a bit sticky," and grimaced, and quite frankly, I was already looking around for a way out. He had just left the cabin when the plane dropped again. There was a grinding noise for a minute or two, and then everything went black. The next thing I knew was smoke and the smell of burning. My wife said, "Kick the window out." I went out first, and that was the worst experience of the whole trip, because I was jumping into a black void and did not know whether we were on land or water. My wife followed, and we rolled down a bank. I pulled her away because I was afraid it was going to explode. Mr. Mangum helped to place his wife on a hurdle which was used as a stretcher, and was helping to carry it to the roadway, when he asked 2 young scouts, Robert Pacey, 14, of Roseland Cottage, Calbourne, and Graham Barnes, 13, of Five Houses, Calbourne, to lend a hand, as he was just about all in, and they did so. The island services cooperated magnificently. The Salvation Army ran a canteen at the scene from 9 o'clock on Saturday until nightfall on Sunday, and distributed free to rescue workers 1,000 cups of tea, 500 cakes, 200 packets of biscuits, and several tins of potato crisps, all of which had been donated. To this day, the cause of the accident remains unknown, the only hard facts emerging being that both number 3 and number 4 engines on the starboard wing had stalled, and at the time of impact the plane was banking steeply to the right, possibly as a result of that loss. Also unknown was why the craft was in that area, as the usual route passed near the Needles. Apart from where noted, all photographs copyright to the Isle of Wight Fire Brigades Federation, kindly provided by Damon Carr.
A view from Jane Stevenson, columnist. One thing this island has in abundance is a long and colourful history. However, with real life dictating our priorities, we often take this for granted and fail to see how important it is to the very identity of the island. From the 6,000-year-old Longstone at Mottiston or Brading Roman Villa to the splendour of Osborne House and the Needles, we have a varied and interesting range of must-see attractions, beaches, gardens and other visitor-friendly areas. Most have websites with information on activities, opening times and forthcoming events. How on earth, then, did Fort Victoria fall through the net? This little gem sits almost opposite Hurst Castle and offers some amazing views across the Solent, all contained within 50 acres of a beautiful coastal and wooded landscape. It was quite by chance that I found the place, tucked away at the end of the lane leading off Hallett's Shoot. Despite its colourful red brick building, it presents an unprepossessing first view. The signs advertising the attractions are dated and overgrown. Only by parking and getting out to explore the site will you find any indication of the story behind this extraordinary building. Initially, the whole area looks bleak and unused, yet when I found an information board under the arches giving a brief history of the fort and the armaments, I realised the unexpected story behind this place. The fort was built in the early 1850s to help protect the Solent. It is now a designated country park and home to several local attractions, including a reptilarium, a planetarium and a shipwreck museum. There is a cafe with outdoor seating overlooking the green and a small beach where rock pools and the occasional fossil can be found. Although my visit was one of the wettest days recently, when much was closed, I was surprised that more isn't done to create an all-year-round attraction. I met a lady who works there, and she provided a wealth of information and background to this historic landmark. She showed me the boundary of the original fort, the only reminder today being a brickwork stencil laid out in the car park. I understand that all businesses on the island, regardless of size, have to pay a fee known as Wight BID towards funding marketing, press and PR to support tourism. Fort Victoria seems to have lost out. I'm unsure how the money from such a levy is apportioned, but could some be earmarked for the restoration of the fort? Improving the curb appeal by updating signage, cutting back the foliage, installing planters and introducing information boards is somewhere to start. Fort Victoria could be an attraction to rival other lesser known areas of the Isle of Wight. It is such a shame more isn't being done to try to resurrect the area. With some maintenance and investment, the fort will offer a new lease of life to all its users. Surely we should attempt to save this hidden treasure.
And now a report from Richard Quigley, MP for Isle of Wight West, saying, I take my responsibility to constituents seriously. On Wednesday, I had a Prime Minister's question, a PMQ, and I used it to urge the Prime Minister to intervene and exempt cross-Solent ferries from potential emission trading scheme charges. I set out quite clearly the unfairness of exemptions being granted to Scotland and Northern Ireland, but not to the island, despite our reliance on ferries. As the MP for Isle of Wight West, I take my responsibility to constituents seriously, but I worry the government has yet to take serious action on the issue. So I will continue pressing the case against the ETS, and I will be taking the Minister up on their offer to visit the island to see firsthand the challenges we face. Also in Westminster, I was granted time in the Chamber to introduce my 10-minute rule bill, the Eating Disorders in brackets Training Bill. These bills give backbench MPs a chance to propose new legislation and shine a spotlight on issues in need of urgent attention, something this subject certainly deserves. Improving support for people living with eating disorders is a cause close to my heart, and how important it is based on the number of constituents who have written to me. Early intervention can be life-saving, yet too often families find themselves navigating a system that lacks the consistency, training and confidence required to give people the care they need. While 10-minute rule bills rarely become law, my hope is that this will help drive momentum, raise awareness and encourages the government to take bold, decisive action to close these gaps once and for all. While work is needed on the ETS, the government's recent 20 million investment in investors, as well as the NCC's launch of new large structure innovation centre, puts the island at the forefront of research and innovation. Importantly, both will support skilled jobs on the island as well as apprentices. With it also being National Apprenticeship Week, I was delighted to attend the College Apprenticeship Awards. It was fantastic to see so many students being recognised for their hard work, but it's a reminder of why we need to work even harder as a community to support young people and provide opportunities for them to flourish. Last October, I brought island businesses together for a skills summit. Following that, I'm now working collaboratively with island businesses and community leaders to tackle the number of young islanders not in education, employment or training. They're known as NEETs. The island's renowned for innovation. We've just got to be better at shouting about it. I'd encourage you to look at the brilliant Careers for Young People programme, which started as a pilot and has now won a King's Award. And that's something we can all be proud of.
Superintendent Rob Mitchell from Hampshire and Isle of Wight Constabulary states police have positive can-do approach. Working in partnership with other local agencies is at the forefront of our approach to tackling antisocial behaviour which can blight the lives of residents on the island. You may be familiar with Op Spider, which was established 5 years ago to address a sharp increase in antisocial behaviour brackets ASB in the Bay Area of South Wight. A police-led partnership approach, Op Spider, is focused on reducing ASB, targeting drug and alcohol-related harm and diverting young people from criminal behaviour in our communities. A review of Op Spider took place 2 years ago in 2024, recording a 49% reduction in ASB in the first 3 years of the operation. The Op Spider structure has been shared as best practice and continues to deliver, with a further 13.5% reduction in antisocial behaviour recorded between January 2025 and January 2026 for the Bay. Of the 78 young people identified as involved in the initial antisocial behaviour in 2021, 72 have been successfully diverted to supportive agencies, remain clear of the criminal justice system, and are no longer involved in antisocial behaviour or crime. It is clear to me that this operation is successful because it takes a holistic approach to tackling a key issue for our residents. Op Spider addresses social, health and educational risks to tackle both symptoms and causes of antisocial behaviour. As I have stated before, our success in policing this issue is only possible through close collaboration with support agencies, schools, youth work providers, housing associations and health services. The results are a testament to what we can achieve when working in partnership with the communities we serve. I am proud of the ongoing work of our dedicated neighbourhoods policing teams across the island and know that they will continue to build on this foundation, continuing to reduce antisocial behaviour in our towns and diverting young people to meaningful support systems. I have had the privilege of being the superintendent of the island for over 3 years now. I can honestly say that this role has been amongst the very best jobs I have had in 30 years of policing, from which I am now retiring. From the first day, I was struck by the unique spirit and character of our island police officers and staff. Not many locations have such a positive can-do approach to policing that I see day in and day out from our island teams. I make this judgment having worked all over the mainland, and it is a big reason that I have enjoyed my time here so much. That positively extends to our partner agency colleagues. They exhibit real passion and commitment to do the best that they can for our communities, likely because many of them are islanders themselves, and naturally they want to keep their home a safe place. A new commander will be appointed in the coming weeks, but during this period, Chief Inspector Andy McDowell will continue to lead as deputy commanders.
And now some things that are happening on the Isle of Wight. On Saturday the 14th, I think that's tomorrow, there's going to be a repair cafe in Key Arts. It's at 10 o'clock, it's free, and it's a chance to have your broken household items repaired by volunteers and stop them going to landfill. A repair cafe is a pop-up event that brings people together to learn how to repair damaged items. So it's at Key Arts in C Street, and the email is info@keyarts.org.
On Friday the 6th of March, the Dr. Hook Songbook at 7:30 in Medina Theatre, described as the songs of American country rock band Dr. Hook. The telephone number for tickets, which are £29.50 each, telephone number is 01983 823 884.
An island nightclubs talk, a public talk titled Nightclubs on the Isle of Wight, takes place on Thursday, February the 19th, hosted by St Helens Historical Society. The speaker is journalist and island historian Warren Whitmore, who will look at the island's nightclub history, including La Babaloo at the former Ryde Airport. The talk begins at 7:30 p.m. at the Community Centre, Guildford Road, St Helens. Entry is free for members and £3 for non-members, cash only. Refreshments will be available and all are welcome.
There will be a second edition of the Repair Cafe at 10 o'clock on the 28th of March. Once again, a chance to have your broken household items repaired by volunteers. The contact for Key Arts is the same as mentioned before.
A family-friendly festival. Robin Hill will host a weekend of dance music to kick off the festival season. The Isle of Wight Dance Weekender on Saturday, May the 9th and Sunday, May the 10th, has announced that Professor Green and Gok Wan among its headline acts, alongside more chart names including East 17 and Fats and Small. Garage icons Artful Dodger, So Solid Crew and MCDT are also announced, with more names to be revealed. Artists will perform across multiple covered arenas, and camping and glamping options are available. The event has capacity for 10,000 people a day, event organiser Robert Smith said, who organises music events in London, including at Ministry of Sound, Fabric and Cocoa. Robert said Robin Hill is a great arena. It's obviously the home of Festival. They have spent millions on it. The site where the festival is going to be is perfect, and we are really excited. Since Festival finished, it's left a gap in the market for a family-friendly festival. We have put in months of work to put this together.
Ventnor Film Society presents Solimane's story, Certificate 12A, on Monday, February the 16th at 2:30 and 7:30 at Ventnor Arts Club. Directed by Boris Lozhinsk, the 1 hour 33-minute French-language social thriller follows an undocumented Guinea migrant working as a bicycle delivery rider in Paris as he navigates 2 frantic days in the gig economy while preparing for a high-stakes asylum interview. The film is subtitled. Admission is £6, cash only, with under 30s £3. The bar is open until 5 minutes before the show. Booking is advisable via the email address Ventnor Film Society, or one word, at hotmail.com. Membership is not required.
And now some letters that have been sent in. One from David McKinley in Knighton, and it's his memories of a different time. He says, I was a boy at Ryde School during the last World War, when at the beginning of each term every boy had to take a pack of iron rations. These must have consisted of something simple like biscuits, to be kept in a cupboard in the classroom for use in an emergency. Although what sort of emergency was envisaged for which these rations would have been useful, I can't imagine. On the last day of term, we would have a party at which we ate our rations. My most vivid memory is of the day the school was strafed by a German aircraft. The siren had not sounded, so there was no warning, and the best we could do was to crouch under the desks. As far as I can remember, there was only one very minor injury. The windows were all blown in, and a piece of flying glass cut my knee. The garage at the junction of Wellington Road and Carisbrooke Road in Newport is built over the crater of one of the first flying bombs or doodlebugs to land there. As soon as the all clear was sounded after the raid, we boys all dashed to the site to collect souvenirs. I came away with a piece of metal with German writing on it, but was stopped by a policeman on the way home who confiscated it. The pillar boxes in the town were painted in the usual red colour, but their tops were painted with a special pale green paint. This paint was designed to change colour in a gas attack, although I think it would have been a bit late for anyone standing close enough to see the change. The bus terminus in Newport was in St James's Square, which had previously been the site of the cattle market. Incongruously, it was known locally as the bus market. I was 4 years old when war broke out, and the dangers and restrictions of wartime life were all I knew during my childhood.
A letter from Adam Webb in Ryde, headed, When did Amelia become our front line? Dear Editor, I was under the impression that the British Armed Forces' primary task was to protect our country from threats, internal and external, but it would seem that a purple-haired cartoon named Amelia has now assumed the role of defending the British way of life. Amelia is an AI-generated avatar created to deter young people from extremism. How things have changed since the last time the UK was at serious risk. Back when my dad was a colour sergeant in the Remy at the end of World War II. I have a photograph of him perched on the barrel of a German Tiger tank that he and his mates had confiscated from some nasty National Socialists. The blurry snapshot made me wonder how much more the current situation has to worsen before there is a conversation in the halls of power between military and government that includes the word enough.
And this is a letter, I think, from the Observer, from an R. Wilson in Ryde, and saying Lords should be selected on merit, not patronage. Dear Editor, the latest revelations reported about a former aide of Keir Starmer who campaigned for a convicted child abuser being handed a peerage are nothing short of shameful. What troubles me most is not only the individual lapse in judgment, but the wider pattern it exposes. A government that appears, at times, to operate less like a public institution and more like an employment agency for the well-connected, no matter how low their morals are. Our Prime Minister was apparently aware of the situation before plain old Matthew Doyle became Lord Doyle. That alone should have triggered the most basic alarm bells. Instead, the peerage seems to have been waved through, doubtless because the Peter Mandelson scandal had not yet hit the headlines. How can the public have confidence in those who hold high office when political patronage appears to override common sense? And what did a former communications officer do, anyway, to be given a job for life in the House of Lords? This is not about party politics. It is about standards in public life and the absolute duty of those in power to protect the vulnerable and behave with decency. When people with links to serious offenders are given positions of influence because they happen to know the right people, something has gone profoundly wrong. We are constantly told that lessons will be learned, that processes will be reviewed, that this time things will be different. Yet here we are again, reading about yet another failure of judgment at the highest levels. The public deserves better. We deserve a government that treats safeguarding the vulnerable as a sacred responsibility, not an optional extra, and only puts people in the House of Lords who have actually contributed something to our country, not simply worked for the Prime Minister, when doubtless he was well remunerated.
Dawn Burrow of Wroxall writes, Dear Editor, what a great job our bus drivers are doing, driving through flooded areas and so many road closures wherever they go. They remain very obliging and polite and put up with a lot of moaners and groaners. Give yourselves a pat on the back and thank you all again.
Pollution worry at the traffic lights, and this is from Graham Young in Shanklin. I have grave concerns regarding traffic pollution caused by island roads outside the Premier stores on Lake High Street. They have caused a bottleneck there by the positioning of temporary traffic lights. Why on earth they reduced a 2-lane traffic situation to a 1-lane problem, causing a traffic queue? It is causing pollution to the atmosphere. I have contacted Island Roads and the Isle of Wight Council on this very serious issue.
Joe Nash of Cowes shares County Hall, the butt of a joke. I've got to share this. I was waiting outside Newport Police Station opposite the council offices, and there were 2 men stood by. They were looking at the council building, and one said, My, that is a big building. How many people work in there? The other man replied, Maybe half of them. Hans Bromwich of Cowes writes, Dear Editor, Health Secretary Wes Streeting has shared his WhatsApp and text messages with Lord Manderson over a period of 14 months with Sky News. One message on July 24 last year is particularly interesting. Israel is committing war crimes before our eyes. The government talks the language of ethnic cleansing, and I have met with our own medics out there who describe the most chilling and distressing scenes of calculated brutality against women and children. This illustrates that Wes Streeting knew that Israel is committing war crimes, yet he stayed in a cabinet that was arming, training and providing political support for Israel. The admission is probably sufficient to establish knowledge of war crimes to the Commission of International Crimes, and from that point onwards continued material, political and diplomatic support is likely capable of satisfying the requirements of secondary liability, including aiding and abetting and other forms of accessory and criminal responsibility under international law. We readily arrest those who strongly protest or might materially attempt to disrupt the appalling genocide going on in Gaza. Is it now time to arrest Wes Streeting, Keir Starmer, Yvette Cooper and David Lammy and send them to the International Criminal Court to answer for being knowingly complicit in aiding and abetting war crimes?
And so that's the end of the news this morning. And so it's goodbye from Lynn.
And it's goodbye from her.
The BBC In Touch programme follows, and the scaffolding news follows that.
Vectis Radio, FM 104.6, the heart of the island's community.
So what's happening now, Mary?
We've got Chris and Sam in from Sight for Wight. Good afternoon, Chris and Sam.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
And what are you going to be telling us about today?
Well, I'm going to have a little bit of a chat about some stuff that's coming up at Sight for Wight.
Right.
And Sam?
I'm going to be talking about bits and pieces at Sight for Wight, mainly my job role as the accessibility officer, about AI and the new bits of tech that are available that are really taking off.
Right,
Okay.
That sounds interesting.
Okay.
So who's going to begin?
I'll get me out of the way
Apparently
first.
it's Chris.
Get you out of the way.
Yeah. Thank you for inviting us back.
It's a pleasure.
Always nice to see. There's been a few changes here as well. It's all looking very glam, isn't it? Very professional.
Well, you've had some changes as well, haven't you? Got a new CEO.
One or
and
two.
everything.
Yes, yeah, one or two. I would like to start off with, I always talk about the short story writing competition.
Yep.
I think last time I came in, which was November, December. So we were having the award ceremony, which we did have, and we actually raised £1,457,
wow.
which was really good
Yeah,
for
brilliant.
us for that one. We had, it was a full house. Everyone turned up to collect their award, which always makes a huge difference
Yes, it does.
to the whole atmosphere. So it was a really great evening. So yeah,
And the
wonderful.
stories are brilliant.
Stories are always brilliant,
Yeah.
and obviously with the theme superheroes, the under 18s came out with some cracking
I
stories.
bet they did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Is there going to be another one this year?
yes, yeah,
Is it in the planning? Is it?
it is in the planning. Yeah. We might be looking at tweaking it slightly.
Oh no.
Yeah, not quite sure how, but we just feel we've been doing it for 10 years now. So
Really? Wow, yes, that's what you have.
Yeah. So we are looking at maybe just upping the vamp a little bit, make it a little bit more
Yeah.
exciting.
All right.
So watch this space.
Okay, I'm
Okay.
watching.
Okay, so things that we are hoping to do this year.
Yes.
We are going to do another murder mystery.
Right.
Right.
So the lovely Hannah and her acting friends have agreed to help us out.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't know when we were looking at potentially June, sort of summer or
Right.
autumn.
Yeah.
So it will be June or September. But we're very excited to do that. And JD, our new CEO, is very keen
Yeah.
for us to get that one going.
Is he going to be the victim?
Who knows? I couldn't say, could I? See?
No.
Yeah.
He seems very keen to do everything.
He's absolutely, his enthusiasm is just incredible. There's so many things
Yeah.
that he wants to do, but there's only so many of us
Yes.
in the building that we can only do so
You
much.
just have to work harder, Chris.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Instead of working 24 hours a day, work 26.
But we love his enthusiasm
Yeah.
for
Yes,
wanting to
we
do
do.
different things. So that's good. We've got a trip to the Apollo Theatre coming up in July. I know it seems like it's a long way up, but it actually isn't
no,
really.
It's not. We're trying to organise something. It's not at all.
It's not. So that is, just jotted down here, we're going to the Apollo Theatre.
Is that the one here in Newport?
The one in Newport.
Yep.
To see, it's called 70 Girls 70. I've never heard of it.
No.
No.
But yeah, apparently it's sort of like a sort of comedy type play. So we're
Right.
going to take a lot of our members along to that.
Okay.
So that's also very exciting. We're also looking at new opportunities for things like, believe it or not, archery, tomahawk throwing, rock climbing, kayaking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Maggie,
I'm
your
not
face
sure
is-
about tomahawk throwing.
No. But
Yeah, it could be handy.
yes, as long as
Somebody
they're...
could lose an eye or something.
Or
couldn't
an
they?
ear.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, there's just a couple of things that we've got coming up at Sight for Wight.
With the play, is there going to be an audio description of some sort? Or?
I don't think that they do, unfortunately, but it would be great. I think Shanklin Theatre have that capacity.
I don't know.
I know the Mayflower certainly does.
Yeah.
But no, probably not Kelvin on that one.
I just wondered because a lot of theatres do now. I know
They do.
It's quite common on TV programmes these days.
Yes.
If you turn it on accidentally on your smart TV, you think, what on earth's that going on? We did once. Who's that
really?
man? Who's that man talking? What's he telling us about?
Go away.
Yeah.
Stop telling us things. Yeah.
So yeah, so that's it from me.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Well done.
Thank you very much.
So over to Sam then.
Yes. What have you got for us, Sam?
Basically, to talk to you today about every Monday at Sight for Wight is the drop-in tech sessions, which we do ask that you book. We can offer support and help with mobile phones, tablets, PCs, Mac. They've always been very popular, so please do ask that you give us a ring and we'll get you booked in.
Right.
But here today, really, because there's been a few really big jumps with AI, as everyone knows, it has taken off in the last 12 months like no one ever thought would. Two of the biggest things that we've got going on at the moment, we've got software for mobile phones called Synaptic for blind people, which helps you sort of navigate around your phone. You can do anything you do on a normal mobile phone, but it just makes it accessible for visually and hearing impaired people.
All right.
So we can do demos of this software and guide you where to get handsets and bits and pieces from.
Okay.
But the biggest jump has been with the Meta Smart AI glasses.
I've heard of these. These sound amazing.
Yes, I saw Ruth who put something up on Facebook, didn't she? How she'd
Yeah.
been using them. Yeah.
So for the price, they are a life changer for a lot of our members. So they're made by Ray-Ban. Other makes are available, but
Of course, yes.
we've got the Ray-Bans, and the style we've got are called the Wayfarer range. So there's all different styles of frames. You can get standard lenses, reaction lenses. You can get prescription lenses put in them.
Right.
In the end of each arm that looks forward is a tiny pinhole camera.
Right.
And in the arm of the glasses, just above your ear, is where the speakers are.
Okay.
Once they're all set up, you can ask them pretty much anything. So you can ask them what's in front of you. It will give you an accurate description. It can learn people's faces. So if you're in a room, you can say who's in front of me, and it will actually say Maggie, Kelvin.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Kelvin's on your left, Maggie's on your right.
Yeah.
To that extent. The other big feature with them is we've tested them in Waterloo train station. Obviously, there's so many departure boards up there, and we've simply said, "Hey Meta, when's the next train to
Wherever.
Portsmouth Harbour?"
Yeah.
And within seconds, it comes back platform 10, 13:30.
Oh, right.
So there's a lot of tech out there that can help you see. It can read situations, but a lot of these other apps, they tell you everything.
Yeah.
Whereas the Meta AI, it actually tailors your answer. It gives you what you want
Okay.
to know.
So is it something that would necessarily replace a guide dog?
No,
It's not for that purpose.
it's not for that purpose. I mean, technically, if you asked it if a road was clear, it would know if a road is clear, but it will not tell you.
Okay.
Because obviously if the glasses glitch and someone gets run over,
Yeah.
then it's a whole world. So they're very advanced, but they have their limitations
Yes.
of what they can do.
Okay.
Where's the processing power of this? I mean, it sounds like an awful lot of processing power. Is it something you carry? Is it in your phone? Is it?
So basically, the glasses have a built-in battery, and they look just like a standard pair of glasses. Inside the case is a built-in battery, so every time you put the glasses away, they charge up again. But the glasses are connected to a smartphone, so it can be Apple or Android.
Okay, so
And once set up, that's how the glasses communicate. They communicate with your phone, so you do need data or be connected to a Wi-Fi.
Oh yeah, that's what
network.
I mean, because what you're describing needs a fair bit of processing power, and
Yeah.
you're not going to fit that in a standard glasses frame. At least not
No.
these days yet.
No, the phone is the brains, and then the glasses are
Okay.
the relay
Makes
point.
sense.
Brilliant.
One of the best features that our members have fed back is we've used them in the Beefeater. So obviously, big menu. A lot of VI people struggle with menus, seeing what's on them. We opened up a menu and said, "Hey Meta, what chicken dishes are available?" And within a second, it came back. There's 4 chicken dishes available. Would you like me to read them? So you say, yeah. So instead of other apps, like I say, reading the whole menu, these will
Just pick out what you want.
pick out exactly what you want. So, and they're releasing updates
Excellent.
all the time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, it's a rapidly developing technology, and you say a few years ago it was nothing like this, and now it's absolutely everywhere. Not all of that's good, but when you hear applications like that, that's superb. That's exactly what it should be doing.
yeah, help you with buses, timetables, all sorts, food packaging, medication. It's all does it in a heartbeat. So.
Yes.
That's really good.
Excellent.
So if anyone's sort of interested in them, they can make an appointment and come in. We've got a demo pair we can show you. We can advise you where to get them from, and if you need help setting them up, we can also do that. So they currently retail at $299, which I think
That's really cheap.
£2.99.
I thought you were going to say £700-800.
No, Apple and a few other companies out there have got their own version in development. Obviously, don't know what the prices are in there, but you could be expecting quite substantially more. I just don't know until they're released. But these,
So I imagine if you wanted specific lenses in, that would cost you more.
That would cost you more because you'd buy a standard set of glasses and then talk to your optician first before you purchase the glasses.
Yeah.
But the optician will put your prescription lenses in them.
Oh, right.
Obviously, the cost in that is I wouldn't know.
Whatever it is.
That's a lot more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I'm just thinking now, I quite fancy a pair of those.
Oh, Lord.
They're extremely
Oh, you
helpful.
shouldn't have told him.
But yeah, £299.
Plus lens. I mean, but if you don't need the lenses, it's just $299. That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
I'm liking that.
and off you go. There's no subscription fees. There's no, pay extra for this, pay extra for that. It literally, does what it says on the tin.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Excellent.
So we're more than happy to help if anyone needs help with those.
Right.
Just give the office a call.
So what is the number for them to call?
52205.
Yeah.
And do you have a website too?
We do.
Yes, siteforwight.org.
And where are you
UK.
based?
We are based in Newport, tail end of Newport, sort of etching more towards Carisbrooke. 137 Carisbrooke Road. If you're coming by car, you can come along Castle Road, and we are just past the vets on the right-hand side.
Yes.
Indeed, you are.
You have to be quick to notice it.
Yeah, look for the big blue gates. You can't miss it.
If you're going down the main road, there's a kind of secretive little gate.
Yeah.
Doesn't look like anything at all. What's that for? There's a huge organisation behind that gate. Anyway, so have you got anything else you wanted to add, Sam?
No, that's pretty much it. Any other tech questions? As I say, Mondays is the drop-in session. Give us a call. If you can't come in, we can come out to you. But try and answer anything over the phone if we can help.
Brilliant.
Excellent. Oh,
Excellent.
Thank you. Thank you for
So
all
what's
you
that
do.
number to call again?
52205.
Brilliant.
52205 01983 if you're using mobile. And then you'll get all the help you can need.
Absolutely.
Hopefully. Thank you very much for coming in and telling us. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. Later, news of a so-called blindness tax on some products that has got many of you very exercised. First, though, councils across England are to be given more extensive powers to fine drivers who cause an obstruction by parking their vehicles on the pavement. The new powers are due to take effect later this year, alongside guidance on how the rules can be enforced in a proportionate way. Tougher rules about pavement parking were introduced in Scotland 2 years ago, and they've been in place in London for many years, although with no very consistent enforcement, as I know to my personal cost. I've had the bruises to prove it. So what is changing now? Councillor Tom Hunt is chair of the Local Government Association's Inclusive Growth Committee and a Labour councillor in Sheffield.
The powers that are going to be coming forward are really in part to be determined. We're waiting for further guidance from government on this. There will be parts of the country where the road layouts will be older and they won't be designed for the level of cars that we have on our road network today. And so in those parts of the country, drivers and residents have to sometimes park on pavements in order to ensure that there is a safe movement of vehicles down a road. Now, there needs to be a fair balancing of the rights of all users, all residents in those areas, but I think it will be important that councils have got the ability to use enforcement powers as soon as possible and to reflect the specificities of their own areas.
But you're saying it might differ not only between councils, but actually just between roads inside the same council, basically. You want horses for courses.
I think this is what we'll need to work through with government. Councils, we've been calling for this for a very long time, but it will be up to individual councils to decide how they carry out enforcement and the extent to which they enforce. But I know that a lot of councillors and a lot of council leaders will be keen to see the details so that they can start to do the detailed planning work that will be required to take action. That will inevitably require going out and auditing the road network, understanding where are the real hotspots, where it's going to need it to be enforced. But also, certainly I would think that councils will want to be consulting with their residents. Really important to get residents' voices in all of this.
Will local councils have the funding for doing this, especially for enforcement?
Well, that's a key question that I and other council leaders will want to know, and the Local Government Association, which represents all councils, will be engaging with government to ensure that powers come with the necessary resources so that we are able to implement and enforce effectively. This is a good step forward, but we need to understand how are we going to be resourced to be able to enforce this, and what are the detailed powers we'll be able to get? That's something I'm keen to understand, and I know that lots of people across the country will also. I'm pleased we're moving forward. Lots done, lots more to do.
Tom Hunt of the Local Government Association. We did invite local Transport Minister Lillian Greenwood onto the programme to provide some further detail about how these measures will be rolled out, but we were told that she wasn't available. We'll continue to follow this story and bring you more information as it develops. Meanwhile, as mentioned, enforcement powers were given to local authorities across Scotland as part of a nationwide ban. Back in 2024, we spoke to Lynn Hetherington, who was regularly grappling with cars parked on the pavement in her local area on the outskirts of Glasgow.
Yorzy and I have just left the house. We've already come to a stop. Yorzy's taking me up to the side of the road as there's a car on the pavement, which is very common. Forward, over, and now in the middle of the road. There's quite a bit of noise down here, so I can't hear if there's any cars coming. It is just absolutely exasperating.
Well, Lynn joins us again, listening to herself. So, Lynn, how's it been going since those decisions were made? I mean, is it any better now?
Well, in my experience, no. I think it's very much dependent on where you are. Edinburgh took it in right away. Glasgow has been about 6 months, I think. East Renfrewshire are just starting to put out warnings, so they've not started fining at all. In my local area, I would say the same cars that were parking on the pavement are still parking on the pavement. My family are up in Banff. I've got other family down in the borders. Annan is, say, quite a difficult part to get about because there are a lot of smaller streets. I know that there's not going to be a change in some of these places because there is no room and there's more cars on the road.
Well, we did invite back onto the programme Cabinet Secretary for Transport in Scotland, Fiona Hislop, but she couldn't join us today, sadly. But we have instead been sent the following statement.
Local authorities are at various stages of readiness to enforce. Some local authorities have also been issuing warning notices ahead of actual enforcement to help instil behaviour change against inconsiderate parking. To date, around 85% of Scotland's population are living in an area in which these prohibitions are being enforced. Local authorities also have powers to exempt certain areas of pavement from the national ban, should they feel it necessary, and if certain criteria are met.
So, sounds, Lynn, as if it still very much depends where you are. What do you think about this idea of warning notices?
I think the warnings are fair enough. I think it should have been something that was publicly done. There is a lot of Facebook posts about this when they're getting warnings, and the public are just not understanding. I'm going on and saying that it is something that we've been campaigning for, and that it isn't something that we expect to be enforced on every street. But if they think of disabled people in the middle of the road, or I always put, or your grandchildren or children in the middle of the road being pushed in a pram, then where do you stand? But there is a lot of anger because it hasn't been explained to them properly.
I mean, do you think that people understand yet what a big problem this can be for visually impaired people trying to get around the streets?
No, I really don't think they understand at all. It is very seldom that we come on a car or a van on the pavement, and if there's somebody there, that they will apologise. They usually are very much, well, you can just go round it or squeeze through the small space. And like I said the last time, our guide dogs are trained not to go through small spaces, so they will take you onto the road rather than go through a very small space.
So, a long way still to go, Lynn.
I think we're still very much at the beginning.
Lynn Hetherington, thanks very much for joining us again.
No problem, thank you.
Now, on last week's programme, we updated you about the recent troubles within the charity the Macular Society, brought to a head by the decision from management to cut most of the regional managers helping to deliver localised face-to-face support in favour of centralised phone and online services. Tensions peaked again at a recent annual general meeting where leadership of the Macular Society were accused by some of those who attended online of not properly listening to members' concerns, not allowing room for proper discussion and disallowing more than one vote on the agenda. Last week we heard about the formation of a member-led opposition group called Save Our Society, Save Our Services, and from the Macular Society's chair of the Board of Trustees about their reasons for making those decisions. If you'd like to go back and listen to that programme, you can ask your smart speaker to play In Touch on BBC Sounds. This will bring up the latest episode and then ask for the previous episode to be played. Well, this week we've invited an independent lawyer to provide us with some general background about the rights of members and the role of trustees within a charitable organisation. Peter Spencer is head of practice at Wellers Law Group, which specialises in a range of legal branches, including charity law. Peter, thanks for joining us. In general, how much do members of a charity have the right to influence policy and governance, both in terms of law and good practice?
So in terms of the law, they have some core legal powers under the Companies Act, and these include the ability to appoint and remove the trustees, and they have to approve any changes to the charity's constitution, and then some more boring ones like approving the auditor. And then they have a sort of second, more flexible grey area category where they can either call a meeting to vote on a certain decision, or the trustees themselves can invite the members to vote on certain major decisions within the charity, such as if they're purchasing a major asset, or where the charity wants to merge with another charity, or if it's adopting a sort of new long-term strategy. The trustees will often see that as an opportunity to then reach out to the membership and have them vote on that decision.
So the charities do have a responsibility to listen to members' views about policies?
They do. But as I say, there is a tension there, because at the same time, the trustees, they are responsible for running the charity. But they have to balance that between ensuring that the membership's views feel that they're heard. And the other thing you got to think about is that the trustees, when they do invite the membership to vote on something, they have to then follow through with that decision. They can't allow them to vote and then sort of go against what the membership thinks. The trustees have to be on board with whichever decision that the membership make.
And are there rules, for example, about an annual general meeting? I mean, are there things that you have the right to vote on as members?
So as I say, those sort of core legal ones, the membership have to vote on that. You have to allow the membership to vote on that. But save for that, it is a bit more nebulous, and it is a bit within the discretion of the trustees. As I say, the members, they can call a meeting to vote on a certain issue if they want. But there is this balance and this tension between the fact the trustee board have to be on board with it, and they are ultimately responsible for it, even if it is a member decision.
Now, it is quite common in charities involving disabled people that quite a lot of the disabled people are actually members as well as being beneficiaries. Does that make a difference? I mean, is that the same for the charities where members are also beneficiaries?
Well, you can have charities where the members aren't just the beneficiaries, they're sort of certain stakeholders within the charity as well. So there can be a kind of a mix. But I guess when your membership is solely the beneficiaries, then you do maybe have to work that bit harder to ensure that they are heard and that you do engage with them and they sort of know why you're making the decisions which you're making. If there's a breakdown where the membership don't feel as if they're being heard or they don't think the trustees are doing a good job, then the trustees have to ask themselves whether they've communicated effectively with those members. The type of thing they should be allowing the membership to vote on is major changes within the charity, like I said. So if they've got a major asset that they do all their work out of and they decide to sell that building, that would be something you'd absolutely engage the members on. Or if there's a new long-term strategy that totally alters the way in which they go about undertaking their work, that is certainly something you engage the members on. And again, because the decision itself that the members make would usually be a binary one, there are different ways of engaging with the membership. You can have consultations, you can have subcommittee, user groups. So it doesn't always have to be at the AGM. And the AGM is usually somewhere where you would essentially present the work you've done for that year and then take questions at the end. That's the usual way they're run. And there would usually be a consultation process before an AGM sort of decides anything that major.
So just to make it absolutely clear, as far as members are concerned, if they're really unhappy about something and it's not being sort of brought up as an issue, what rights, what powers do they have?
They can call a meeting to vote on it. They can essentially tell them the trustees to call a meeting. They can also call a meeting to remove the trustees if they don't think they're doing a very good job, which are quite far-reaching powers. But you've got to be careful when you use those powers, because then you might create a power vacuum and someone else has got to step up and actually undertake the work. So I would urge members to put themselves in the trustees' shoes, because they're on the ground. And if the trustees have failed in communicating with them, that's one thing. It doesn't mean that the decision they made is a bad one. They just haven't communicated well the reason for doing it. Because the membership are effectively the owners, they're like shareholders in the company. And particularly when they're beneficiaries, the charity is for them. But the balance is that they shouldn't be micromanaging the trustees in their duties. The trustees run the charity. And if anything goes wrong within the Charity Commission contact the trustees. They don't contact the membership. And they will hold the trustees responsible if anything goes wrong fiscally with the charity. And you saw this with, for example, with Kids Company, where the charity went bankrupt and the liquidators tried to sue the trustee board. They didn't try to sue the wider membership if Kids Company had a membership. So even if a decision is ratified by the members, the buck falls with the trustees.
Presumably that means that the trustees have to be pretty careful that they're fairly well informed about what is going on, because the trustees aren't running the company either. It'll have officers doing that.
Yes. So essentially the trustees are ultimately responsible, and then they sub-delegate their duties to the CEO and CFO. And the CEO will then obviously sub-delegate to other employees those responsibilities. But the CEO and the executive have to report to the trustees regularly. And there's another tension between the trustees and the executive, where the executives do run it, but because the trustees are overly responsible, they have to ensure that they know what's going on, as you say.
Peter Spencer, thank you very much indeed. Well, finally today, if you're looking for a specific item only being sold via the RNIB shop, you'll now be paying a bit more since the introduction of a handling fee. There's been quite a lot of displeasure online over this move by the RNIB, including from some of you who've reached out to us directly.
Many people are discussing this and certainly questioning if it is fair or even right for them to do this. Since the days when they formed as a charity, they have posted goods out for blind customers free of charge under the Articles for the Blind scheme. If a product is able to be sent with Articles for the Blind, then it should be free.
I think that when RNIB make this kind of decision, they need to be consulting their audience and not just sneaking in a charge. I don't know of any other organisation who does this to blind people.
Well, we did invite the RNIB onto the programme to come and discuss the decision behind the introduction of the handling fee. They preferred instead to address your concerns with this statement.
From October 2025, RNIB made some changes to the shipping charges for items bought from the RNIB shop. There is a £1 handling fee for orders using the Articles for the Blind scheme and a charge of £4.50 for orders sent by the Royal Mail 48 tract courier service. While Royal Mail delivers parcels under the Articles for the Blind scheme free of charge, costs relating to picking and packaging, as well as labelling and collection of parcels, are not covered. As a result, we've had to make the decision to put these charges in place to help cover some of the costs. We understand that changes to delivery charges can feel like a big change, and this decision hasn't been made lightly.
Well, do let us know what you think of these changes. Indeed, if you've got any specific things that you'd like us to put to the RNIB's new CEO, do send them along to us, because we hope to be interviewing him very soon. You can email in touch at bbc.co.uk or leave us a voice message on 0161 836 1338. That's it for today. From me, Peter Wight, and producer Beth Hemmings. Goodbye.
Here is the scaffolding and skips news for week commencing the 17th of February. Sorry.
Start again, she says.
What was it week commencing? 13 today, and it's so take 5 off. It must be about the 8th, something like that.
It's the 16th, isn't it?
Today's 13th.
Yeah. 17th of February is Tuesday. So, oh well.
Shall I just say for this week? Oh, I see. It's for next.
It's for,
this is for next week. Excuse me. I'm clacking up. I'll try again. Here is the scaffolding and skips news for the week commencing the 17th of February 2026. Newport area, 15 to 16 Key Street. Unity Hall, 20 St Thomas Square. 140 to 141 High Street. Guildhall, Key Street.
Ride area, Nationwide Building Society, 3 St Thomas's Square. James House, Church Lane, and 141 High Street.
Cowes and East Cowes area, the Portland Inn, Worsley Road, Gurnard. Sea Breeze, York Avenue, East Cowes. Wight Shipyard, Columbine House, Albany Road, East Cowes. 34 Bridge Street, Cowes area skips between 67 and 69 Pelham Road.
Ventnor area, Old Town Hall Court, Albert Street. Ventnor Youth Centre, Victoria Street.
Sandown area, 52 Fitzroy Street. The Bayshore Hotel, Esplanade.
And Brading area skips, 6 Nicholas Close.